Hi, I'm Zion. I'm happy to share my testimony to all of you tonight. I was born in Japan in 2005, December 3rd, under a Korean dad and Japanese mom. Just to talk about my childhood briefly, I used to have a painful relationship and memories with my parents. I've spent most of my childhood in pain, sorrows, and loneliness. Back then I was 11-year-old. My parents divorced, and my Korean dad took my little brother to Korea, and I remained with my mom and grandma. I still remember the day my dad and my little brother left my family. It was in August of 2015, maybe, or 11. Yeah, I was on a vacation, so I visited Korea with my little brother and my dad, where they live. There I spent my last moment of my time with them in my grandparents' house. For about a month, I did not realize how much pain it would bring after I go back to Japan again. So, as usual, I teased my little brother. I beat him. I remember what my dad told me, "Hey Zion, remember, this is the last time that you and I can stay together with your little brother." Time passed. It became the last day of my vacation. I had to go back to Japan. I really had to say the last goodbye to my family. And I didn't want my little brother to notice me leaving, so my dad and I woke up early in the morning, even before sunrise, and we left the house going to the airport. On the way to the airport, maybe my little brother felt a little weird, so called my dad's phone, and he asked me where in the world are you guys going? And my dad and I knew the answer of where I was going, so my dad passed me his phone to me, and I said last goodbye to him, saying I'm really sorry, but I gotta go, so call me whenever you want, but we can't stay together anymore. So crying bitterly, my dad and I continued to drive the road to the airport in the dawn. I came back to Japan and found my newly moved home where there was no one. My little brother had always welcomed me, but he was not there anymore. That was when I realized my family was no longer like it used to be. My mom was so busy to feed me and my grandma. She basically worked all day long and didn't come back to my home. So she could barely come back home, and me, a little kid, I felt lonely. And she was also tired of her life and had many scars and wounds in her mind. So sometimes she was out of control, and we've had plenty of problems between us. And maybe I felt threatened that I was alone. So I started to reach out my hands to something that would make me struggle for the rest of my life. To fill my emptiness and sorrow and vanity, I gave myself away to sexual things such as pornography. Well, I became crazy about it. I was kind of addicted to it. So when I was in junior high, I wasn't satisfied just watching these sexual videos. So I went further than that. I started to do just like this porn did. Even though all this sexual thing I did was for my satisfaction and for my security, none of them made me feel satisfied nor enough or secure. That was when God really called me and started to reveal himself in my life. In 2019, I had an opportunity to visit an IM branch in Korea, where my seniors told me the existence of IM Philippines. I spent 1/3 of my life there, so first time I went, I was really shocked. The gate of this building, just right in front of the building, looked just like a prison cage, and I thought I was about to be in prison. Life there was also pretty hard. I went through all those sort of drill trainings, namely push-up, barbie jump, and squatting, long runs, and so on. The weather was also scorching hot. For 3 years, I've never experienced winter. It was always summer. We had worship service. I had to pray a lot. I had to praise. I had to do this and that. It was really hard, but what made me struggle was not like all these factors. It was my nationality. I was Japanese. Majority of the students there were Korean, and I was the only Japanese. So sometimes I feel like I'm going against a whole bunch of these Korean people all alone, like 1 versus 60. And you know, like Korea and Japan used to be and are in present very hostile to each other. So like some kids called me I'm a Jap in the Monkey Island. That really made me sad, and I was so disappointed about myself because when I was in Japan, people told me like I'm Korean. I felt isolated, and when I was in the crowd of these Korean people, they called me Jap. Sometimes I went to the corner of the library or like another room, and in between the shelves, I sobbed and I cried alone. So depressed, I was like letting go of everything. I was almost giving up. But in the middle of this challenging time, I was starting to question myself like, who's God? What will happen if I really accept Jesus Christ in my life? And that was when Jesus finally came to me and found me. On Saturday evening, now my beloved missionary, my teacher, my mentor, called Teacher Deborah, came to me and said, Zion, did you know that God really loves you? She told me that God of the universe who made the stars and the skies and the ocean, is God of mine, is my God. I was very impressed. Yet, so does he actually know me? And like, does he actually care about me? I started to question myself. In the middle of questioning, God ran down into my heart and he changed my life. He transformed it. Just next day in the Sunday service, Teacher Deborah was a preacher and she spoke pretty much about the same thing as she told me the night before. But she used the metaphor that we're all like a marathon runner. So we've got to run and complete the life just like 46-kilometer marathon. And just like runners, maybe at the point of like 26-kilometer or like 10-kilometer, we go extremely tired and we would need somebody's help. Usually for runners, there's like sponsors and parents standing by the side of the road and they encourage him. Sometimes give a runner a cup of water and cheers to them. She said God is just like that. In our life, we sometimes want to give up, quit running, but God stands by me and understands me, encourages me, and tells me that He really loves and cares so much about me. He even takes me up and carries me to the goal. So when I heard that, I felt something very hot melting in my heart. I felt like the stone-like image of God came to life. And it was not even, I know you, or like, I will be with you, I love you. He just said, I knew you, the past tense. I don't know why, but this one word collapsed all the guards and walls in my mind. I felt God. And I was so encouraged and empowered by God. And when I knew that God had already known me, and even when I was in time of sorrowfulness, isolation, griefs, God was with me. When I felt I was known by God, that was enough, and that was it. As a Japanese guy, I had barely cried before, but that day, drops of my tears went down to my eyes. Then I started to live with and for God. I still have the problem with my sexual desires, but my heart began to feel pain when this kind of thoughts took place in my mind. I felt so guilty that I didn't want to do it anymore. I used to be a king and master of my life, but little by little, I started to lay them down, and that made me here today. And God started to attach me beautiful people and like wonderful and faithful mentors and teachers and friends, so I came alive again. But God's blessing did not only stop there, but He also gave me, taught me to speak Korean unbelievably through Korean worship service. He also told me how to speak English. Plus, He made a way for me to study abroad and led my life to this point here. I've never imagined this in my life before. More importantly, God opened my eyes to see those who are not saved yet. He especially opened my eyes to my nation, Japan. I recently had attended a mission trip to Japan. In Tokyo, God spoke through my lips and worked through me, and I happened to share my testimonies in several places. He gave me passion to save the millions of people in Japan and for not saved and aware of the gospel. God also gave me political passion and insight for Japanese and global politics. Looking back how God has worked in my life, I'm sometimes amazed to see my accomplishments I've made in my life with God. He picked me up and gave me a dream. And now I acknowledge that God is my master, He's my king, and I follow what He wants me to do, and this joy can't be compared nor found in my past life. Sometimes I cannot do what I want at the time I want, but when I surrender my will to God and follow Him, He fills me with His joy abundantly. Nothing can take place of my love toward God, and nothing can take place of His love. To God be the glory. Thank you all.